Katt Williams never cared about keeping quiet. In an industry built on silence, he was the voice that refused to be tamed. The night he sat on that stage and said, "They all sold their souls for comfort," the audience laughed, but he didn't. His eyes carried something heavier, something he'd seen behind the curtain of fame that few dared to speak about. For years, Katt Williams had been the unpredictable truth teller, the one Hollywood couldn't fully own. But this time, his words didn't just sting. They burned. Because the person he called out wasn't some nameless executive or faceless label head. It was Kanye West, the golden child of modern music, a man once hailed as a genius, now shrouded in whispers of control, power, and something far darker. When Katt Williams said, "They made him sacrifice everything to stay relevant, even the one person who kept him human," the crowd went quiet. No one was laughing anymore. That line would go on to trend for weeks. But those who truly knew Kanye West understood it wasn't just a joke. It was a wound, reopened publicly, by a man brave enough to risk everything just to say it. Katt Williams' truth came at a cost. Within days, interviews vanished, clips were flagged, and the networks that had booked him suddenly changed direction. Yet the internet kept his message alive. Fans began connecting dots between Kanye West's public breakdowns, the mysterious loss of Donda West, and his frequent clashes with Diddy, one of the most powerful men in the industry. Rumors began to swirl again. Rumors that Kanye West's rise to superstardom wasn't as organic as people once believed, that there were forces behind him, shaping his every move, and that when he tried to break free, they reminded him who was really in control. For Katt Williams, this wasn't about gossip. It was about truth, and that truth pointed toward a system, one that devours its own stars and calls it entertainment. Years before the chaos, Kanye West had been different. Bright-eyed, defiant, and unfiltered. He had a dream that went beyond awards and record sales. He wanted freedom. But freedom in Hollywood comes with a price. When Donda West passed away, something inside Kanye West shifted. The world saw grief. Insiders saw punishment. That loss became a story the industry never stopped telling, a tragedy so public that it turned private pain into profit. Behind closed doors, Diddy was said to have consoled him, guiding him through the darkness. But others whispered that the relationship was far from mentorship. It was ownership. That every outburst, every meltdown, every public humiliation was part of a cycle meant to break Kanye West down, to remind him who held the strings. Still, Kanye West fought back. He called out record labels, media outlets, and even his own peers. "They're controlling our art, our image, our minds," he once said in a live interview that mysteriously never aired again. And that's when the walls started closing in. The more Kanye West spoke out, the more the machine retaliated. Suddenly, every headline painted him as unstable, every mistake magnified. His fashion deals collapsed, his collaborations ended overnight, and people he once called friends turned their backs on him. It was almost surgical. The way they stripped him of everything, just as Katt Williams predicted. Meanwhile, Diddy thrived. His empire expanded, his influence spread, and his silence grew louder. The public saw him as untouchable, a king in a glass castle. But those inside the industry knew that castle was built on loyalty and fear. "Everyone owes him something," a former associate once said. "And if you don't pay in money, you pay in blood." That quote would resurface years later, right when Katt Williams reignited the fire. During his viral interview, Katt Williams didn't name names directly. He didn't have to. His words were loaded, his pauses calculated. He talked about the dinner parties where deals are made, not in studios, but in shadows. He described artists signing away their souls before they even sign a contract. And then came the moment that broke the internet. When asked why so many artists lose themselves after fame, Katt Williams replied, "Because some of them were never meant to keep their souls. They were only rented to them until the industry decided it was time to collect." That single line changed everything. Fans began digging deeper into Kanye West's history, the timelines, the losses, the sudden changes in behavior. They noticed that after Donda West's passing, his music grew darker, his circles smaller, and his message more cryptic. Then came the feud with Diddy, a feud no one saw coming, but one that seemed inevitable. Diddy had built his image as the ultimate mogul, powerful, respected, and feared. But Kanye West knew what lay beneath that image. He'd seen the rituals, the manipulation, the quiet coercion that kept everyone obedient. He wanted out, and that was his first mistake. Freedom is expensive in a world where control is currency. By the time Katt Williams spoke up, the machine had already buried countless stories like this. Artists disappearing from the spotlight, public meltdowns brushed off as mental health crises, sudden deaths called accidents. It was a pattern. One fans had noticed but couldn't prove, and Katt Williams gave it a voice. His warnings were layered with humor, but beneath the laughter was pain, the kind that comes from watching too many friends fall victim to the same trap. He talked about contracts that felt more like cages, about managers who acted more like handlers, and about parties that began as celebrations and ended in nightmares. What made Katt Williams' words so dangerous wasn't what he said. It was who he was. He'd been around long enough to see everything. He'd made the same mistakes, attended the same events, and watched the same people lose themselves to greed and fame. He wasn't an outsider throwing stones. He was a survivor, finally ready to name the monsters he once called friends. The public saw a comedian ranting about conspiracy theories. But insiders heard something else. Recognition. They knew exactly who he was talking about. Meanwhile, Kanye West remained silent. For once, he didn't clap back, didn't post online, didn't show up to any events. His absence spoke louder than words. Some said he was regrouping. Others said he was being silenced. Then came the leak. A private recording between Kanye West and Diddy, where Kanye West begged to be released from his obligations. The voice on the tape, cold and unbothered, replied, "You don't walk away from a contract written in blood." No one ever proved the tape was real, but its timing couldn't have been more precise. Right when the public started moving on, the story was reborn. And once again, Katt Williams was at the center of it. In his next appearance, he said, "They're coming for me now, but I'm not scared. I already told y'all what happens when you speak truth." Within days, his shows were canceled, sponsors pulled out, old scandals resurfaced, the machine was at work again. Yet the people kept listening, because behind every whisper of control, there was a scream waiting to be heard. Online forums filled with speculation. Was Kanye West trapped? Was Katt Williams next? And what about Diddy? How did one man become so powerful that even billionaires feared him? No one had answers, but the silence surrounding it all felt intentional, as if the entire industry had made an unspoken agreement to never speak of these things again. But truth doesn't die that easily. A former assistant came forward anonymously, claiming that Kanye West had tried multiple times to escape the system. He wanted to walk away, the source said. He didn't care about money anymore. He wanted peace. But they told him peace doesn't sell records. That line became the headline everywhere. Peace doesn't sell records. And in a world obsessed with chaos, it rang painfully true. As Kanye West's silence continued, documentaries, podcasts, and interviews tried to piece together the story. Some blamed fame, others called it paranoia. But those closest to the situation said it was neither. It was fear. Real, tangible fear. Because every time someone tried to speak out, something happened. Careers ended, stories got pulled, lives changed overnight. It was almost as if an invisible hand was tightening its grip on every artist who dared to question the system. And that's when Katt Williams dropped his final bombshell, a revelation that connected everything: Kanye West, Donda West, and Diddy. He said, "They don't just take from you, they take who you love, because the easiest way to control a man is through his pain." The room fell silent. That was the moment the gossip stopped feeling like gossip and started sounding like truth. Katt Williams wasn't laughing anymore. The jokes were gone. All that was left was the eerie calm of someone who had seen too much and survived long enough to warn others. Online, people called it the Great Exposé. Others dismissed it as performance art. But those who'd been following Kanye West's story for years knew this was no performance. It was confession through proxy. And somewhere, hidden from the spotlight, Kanye West was watching. He'd always been the rebel, the outlier, the one who wouldn't play by the rules. But even rebels need allies. And Katt Williams, for all his flaws, had just become his most dangerous one. The war wasn't over, it was just beginning. In the days that followed, Katt Williams's warnings echoed across every platform. Clips of his interviews were dissected frame by frame, each pause and smirk analyzed like evidence in a trial. But beyond the entertainment value, a growing unease began to spread, because some of what he said started happening in real time. Katt Williams had claimed that when artists refuse to play by the rules, they vanish, not physically, but professionally. Within weeks, Kanye West's projects were quietly pulled from playlists, his upcoming releases delayed for undisclosed reasons, and his brand collaborations disappeared from websites without a trace. It was as if someone had pressed delete on an entire legacy. Behind the scenes, the whispers got louder. Industry insiders spoke of a secret meeting, one allegedly hosted by Diddy himself, where the topic was containment. Containment of narratives, of leaks, of people. One insider described it as damage control at the highest level, a desperate attempt to put the genie back in the bottle before too many started asking the wrong questions. But it was too late. The internet had already crowned Katt Williams the truth teller of the decade. He'd become both a hero and a target, a man walking through fire while everyone else watched from a safe distance. Every new revelation he dropped drew millions of views. He talked about ghost contracts, deals that never expire, keeping artists bound even after death. He mentioned how masters of songs were more than just property. They were insurance policies, bargaining chips for silence. When asked if he feared for his life, Katt Williams just laughed. "Fear," he said. "Fear is how they win. I've already lost everything they could take." The audience clapped, but behind that laughter was a quiet dread, because history had shown what happens to those who defy the system. Meanwhile, Kanye West was seen only once, a grainy clip caught by a fan outside a remote studio. His face was tired, his movements slow. He wasn't the vibrant icon people remembered. He looked like a man carrying too many ghosts. The fan who recorded the video claimed he smiled and said, "They can mute me, but they can't erase me." That line alone reignited the internet's obsession. "They can't erase me" trended for days. Documentaries, podcasts, and anonymous threads began connecting decades of similar disappearances. Artists who challenged authority and suddenly fell from grace. And in every thread, one name kept reappearing: Diddy. Diddy's silence became its own language. He didn't respond, didn't post, didn't deny. His empire continued as if untouched, business as usual. Yet insiders said his offices were no longer calm. Security was tightened, calls were screened. A select few of his inner circle reportedly went missing from the public eye. When one journalist dared to ask him about Katt Williams' comments, he simply smiled and said, "Everyone loves a good story." But that calm didn't fool anyone. The storm was growing, and for once, even he couldn't control the narrative. Then came the anonymous drop, an encrypted folder posted online by someone calling themselves The Witness. Inside were photos, contracts, and recordings allegedly linking Diddy to secretive artist retreats, events where careers were made or broken overnight. One audio clip, though distorted, featured a voice eerily similar to Kanye West saying, "They told me I'd have to lose everything to gain control. I didn't realize they meant my soul." The file spread like wildfire before it was mysteriously scrubbed from every major platform. Accounts sharing it were suspended. Even journalists who downloaded the folder reported their systems being hacked. It was the biggest digital cover-up the gossip world had ever seen, and the proof that Katt Williams might have been right all along. By now, Kanye West's legacy had turned into a modern myth. He'd become the face of resistance, a symbol of rebellion against an invisible system that thrived on silence. Fans began organizing listening vigils, streaming his old songs as acts of defiance. Diddy, on the other hand, retreated further into secrecy. His interviews dried up, his once public appearances now rare. Yet somehow, his influence didn't fade. If anything, it spread wider, like a shadow stretching across an industry too afraid to look directly at it. Then came one final twist. A leaked memo from a major entertainment company revealed a new policy. All artists must undergo reputation preservation training before release. In simpler terms, censorship disguised as professionalism. Insiders said it was Diddy's idea, implemented quietly to ensure that no one like Kanye West or Katt Williams could ever rise again. But art has a way of surviving even when silenced, and just like that, Kanye West became legend. Katt Williams became myth, and Diddy? He became a warning. Because in the end, every industry has a cost, and fame perhaps is the most expensive currency of all. As one insider later put it, they all think they're chasing dreams, but really, the dream is chasing them. And somewhere in the darkness, the story still continues, whispered, feared, but never forgotten.